Going to be a talk about the beast of gevaudan. It was a beast that killed over 100 people between August of 1764 to June of 1767, and it was there's a lot of controversy as to who and what it is, and I think I have a unique take on of what happened. You can go on the internet and find all kinds of things, and there were several wolves killed, blamed that they said they got it. Let's go over the candidates. Okay, first, it's just a big lone wolf, or it could have been a dire wolf. If any of y'all watch Game of Thrones, you know what the dire wolf is. That it was just packs of wolves, that it was a hybrid between a wolf and maybe a mastiff, that it was a trained armored mastiff from a devil worshiper or an opportunist murderer. Now, I want to kind of go over, there was a count that, or he was a baron that had and back at the time they would armor dogs for war, and so it's thought that he might have been. Of course, he actually shoots one and turns one in, and of course the killings keep going on, so it might have been to throw people off. And here are some famous wolves that killed people throughout history. Now, wolf attacks and killing people back in France were not that uncommon. Remember, this was a long time ago. There's some prehistoric species that were kind of blamed for it. The cave hyena. The hyena has been blamed for it. And then also an adolescent male lion. Now, it was known, the first woman that actually escaped this, and just before this, was watching some cattle, and the bulls actually rammed at it with their horns and scared it away. But she said it was a male. It had some spots on its head. It didn't have a mane, and it had a long droopy tail. But if you look at the attacks, it's using its paws in an unusual way, and some of the corpses were found with their heads missing, and lions tend to do that. I think the actual last, and here's some comparison in size, and this is for the average Frenchman of the age, who was several inches shorter than the average person's height today. So this is a Malamute, and this would be an Irish Wolfhound. And here's the artist rendering at the time of the beast. As you can see, this is considerably bigger than either one of these. That's why it's my contention that the true beast of gevaudan was an adolescent lion, much like the man-eaters of Savo. I think it got out of a bestiary, probably escaped when it was young, and as it got bigger, it needed more and more food, and it started attacking. There was some weird stuff going on in France at the time, though. There was a werewolf craze. People were doing, there was a lot of injured people from all the wars that France, remember, France was a world power at the time. And there was a lot of people injured that had bad facial injuries from artillery fragments, and they called these people, and they would live away from society, and they called them corn wolves. And they were just guys that were disfigured from the war, and they would grow their face and their beard heavy to cover up the scars, and they would dress in they would kill animals and dress in their skins, so they looked kind of like werewolves, and they would live. They would be seen out in the fields, garnishing stuff at night. So there was a werewolf craze going on in France, and then they also had the Inquisition, and their version of the Inquisition, and they were convicting people of being werewolves and consorting with the devil. By the way, they called them loups-garous. That's the French term for werewolf. And There was another thing I want to bring up. Ergot poisoning. So the average Frenchman ate rye bread. Well, this was a cold period, and it would cause ergot, which is basically LSD. So these people are basically tripping out all over France, and they think they're turning into wolves, and then they think other people are turning to wolves because they're basically just high on ergot poisoning. Also at the time, medication was kind of strange, I guess would be the West. There was all kinds of salves of people that had poppy seeds in them, which, is heroin. They would have aconite in them, wolfsbane, and they would cause delirium. So people would see things from that weren't actually there. What I think the actual beast of gevaudan was an adolescent male lion. Now, they killed several wolves. There was probably packs of wolves doing it. There was probably lone wolves. There was probably a bunch of these things actually going on. And there was probably opportunist murderers going on. During the Blitz, during World War II, there was probably 300 people murdered that used the Blitz to kill people that they didn't like, and used the war to cover it. So probably a couple of these murders were those. So it's going to be an amalgam. There was probably separate lone wolves that did it. There was probably separate packs of wolves that contributed to this number. I don't discount that some of these people, the opportunist murderers, actually contributed to this number. But the vast majority were from the adolescent male lion. You can tell by the way the animal attacked. The other big candidate is a hyena, but the size of the beast lends it to be an adolescent lion. Adolescent lions do not have a mane. They often have spots on their head. Towards the end, they started adding a mane to this thing. Now, the average person in France knew kind of what a lion was, but their picture of it had a lion, with a big mane, and this didn't have a mane. But yet they saw, several people saw, the junk, that it was a male. So they said, well, it can't be a male lion because it doesn't have a mane. Well, this was the main culprit, the beast of gevaudan. But it was actually a gestalt of several things. Like I said, there were several other wolves that actually contributed to the kills. Probably groups of wolves. Like I said, opportunistic people involved. But the main majority, which is going to be about 68 of these, is going to be from the adolescent male lion. Now, they thought it had supernatural powers because they were firing bullets at it and they couldn't hit it, or they were hitting it, but it would knock it down, but they would get up. There was an order rescinding, allowing the peasants to arm themselves. But remember, firearms, the good ones were in the hands of the soldiers, and they were trained in doing it. Remember, it was damp at the time. They got to pour gunpowder and black powder. By the way, the last, when they actually killed, there was two killings. One, the king's arborescer killed one, and they paid him the big money for it. And that one they put on Versailles, and that one actually was a wolf. It was a very large wolf, along the lines of this one. But the killings kept going, and finally one of the local bishops blessed some silver bullets, and they killed it with a silver bullet. Not that it was a werewolf, but they thought it was. And when people were excited, they don't put the proper load. And remember, these were powder loaded single shots. So when they got excited, they would miss, or they would hit it. They didn't have a good load on them. Some of it was damp. They weren't getting a proper burn on it. And anyway, the beast of gevaudan, that's my different take on it. There's a lot of good videos on it, but I don't think they bring it all together. Like I said, I don't think the 100 people that died, I don't think all of them. There were some opportunistic murderings. There probably was a devil worshiping factor to it. If any of you have seen this movie called The Brotherhood of the Wolf, I highly recommend it. Now, in that movie, the beast is a fully grown African lion that a man trains and puts armor on it. So he's got steel armor on it, and it's hard to kill a lion that's got armor on. But anyway, that's a very interesting book about a very strange time in France. Like I said, this is the time of France where the Inquisition was rife, and people were seeing the devil everywhere, and a lot of the local bishops were saying this is a scourge of God sent to punish us. And anyway, check it out, The Beast of Gevaudan. And I have a little beast out here too, if you can see him here. Here's you can't see him. Anyway, I was gonna say there's Snickers. He's my friend's dog. That he could be the Beast of Gevaudan. Anyway, thank you. I'm out.